Back now with technology that can lead to big breaks in cases with very small pieces of evidence. It's already helped in a deadly hit and run in James City County. 64-year-old Andrew Davis was walking his dog when he was hit and left for dead. The state police had no leads, but now a vital piece of new information could change that. 10 on your side's Michelle Wolf joins us with more. Michelle?
Lena, Virginia State Police sent evidence samples to the Department of Forensic Science. With paint chips smaller than the point of a pencil, forensic scientists can determine the make and model of a vehicle. Tonight, we have a look at the process.
This can be a time-consuming process.
A time-consuming process, but one that Brenda Christie says is highly rewarding.
It's very rewarding when they find the car.
Christie serves as the trace evidence supervisor at the Virginia Department of Forensic Science Laboratory in Norfolk. She spent the last 2 decades working in forensics.
So this is a scraping room.
The process starts with scraping articles of clothing and collecting the particles that fall off to view under a microscope.
We'll suspend the clothing on these hooks. Generally, we're trying to make anything that's adhered to the clothes fall off, and then we'll collect it on a piece of white paper into a tin. Generally, we're going to be collecting between a tablespoon and sometimes as much as half of a cup of dirt and debris and dried blood, body fluids, and then hopefully some paint.
Christie then separates the debris into multiple tins and searches for pieces of paint, which is successful about 50% of the time.
Moving everything around with tweezers to make sure that we make them flip over to see if there's anything in there is paint.
If a particle is found, it's recorded under a microscope and then an FTIR, or Fourier transform infrared spectrometer.
It sees how each of those layers of paint, because we're going to analyze them individually, is going to absorb infrared light. And as it absorbs light, it gives us information about the chemicals or the compounds that compose each of those layers.
The waveform the paint particle generates is entered into the PDQ, or Paint Data Query database. The database contains paint composition information on more than 25,000 vehicles, going as far back as the 1960s.
There's paint samples in the database that go back to the 1960s, but it's most populated from 1990 forward.
The PDQ was originally created in partnership with the FBI and Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
It's only available to law enforcement, and we have to provide the RCMP with 60 paint samples a year. So we're looking for the plant of origin, primarily looking at the clear coat and the primer layers. So the color of the vehicle is the last thing that we're going to look at in the entire search.
The chemical composition of those layers can give scientists like Christie enough information to find the factory a car was manufactured at, the year or year range, and a potential model. While Christie says there will never be a complete match, they can get pretty close. And the process from scraping clothing to the PDQ can take a few days to a week.
We look for the car's cousins in the database, because it's not that car, it's not like a DNA database. Yeah. We're looking for something else that was made at that factory in that time period.
The information is shared with police, and a suspect, Christie says, is caught in about a quarter of cases. Now, in Davis's case, a paint particle determined the suspect vehicle to be a black to dark gray Honda from 1995 to 2015. The car has significant front-end damage. If you have any information, call Virginia State Police. Michelle Wolf, 10 on your side.